Captain Jamie Benn and goaltender Jake Oettinger to take your questions. We have mic holders both sides of the room. We'd ask you to please raise your hand and wait for the microphone. And if you would, please direct your questions to one of the two players. Who'd like to start? We'll go left side, second row, Mike.
Hey, Jamie. How much did last year's series affect this year's series? Is there any sort of carryover of the rivalry and, what you guys want to do, obviously, because they beat you last year?
I think obviously the carryover is still there. We remember what happened last year, but, obviously, we've both been through a new season. We brought in different players. They brought in different players. So, totally new rivalry, I guess, for this year that, we're looking forward to.
Right side, front row, Nick.
So, Jamie, the cameras caught a pretty cool interaction between you and Wayne Gretzky after last game. You said something like, "Don't worry about scoring goals. You're doing great." And you said, "I'm just a checker," with a big laugh. What's that like to get a compliment from Wayne? And then two, what's your mentality of bringing more beyond scoring goals, right? All the rest of the parts of your game.
Obviously pretty cool that Wayne came in our room after the game and, talked to us, talked to the guys. He said we're going up against a pretty good team now, and I had to ask him who he was cheering for. It felt right. And he didn't answer, obviously. But just for my game and our team's game, it's doing whatever it takes for your team to win, and whatever role that might be. It's that time of year to make sacrifices, and as long as you're winning games, it's the most important thing.
Other questions? Go back to Mike.
Hey, Jake, are you aware you faced 100 more shots than the next closest goalie in the playoffs, and does that affect you in any way?
I only know that because my papa told me that, but I think we've played more games than anyone, so I've said in the past, it's almost easier when you're getting a lot of rubber, and, when you face a shot every 10 minutes or so, that's when they feel really difficult, so hopefully I should face a lot more because it means we're playing a lot more games.
Right side, second row.
Jamie, 3 conference finals in a row the last 3 years. How does that experience show up for you guys, both on the ice and kind of behind the scenes, and preparing you for another one this year?
I think just, when we do our meetings and talk with each other, it's not like we're talking to a new group. We've been here before. We know we haven't reached our goal the last couple of years, and obviously we want to do that here now. But it's fun when you go through battles with the same guys, so many times, and you see what guys do and what guys sacrifice, for each other, and we know we can count on one another to make that next step, and that's obviously something we want to do this year.
Left side, first row.
Hey, Jake. Edmonton, when you look at them, obviously, it stands out with their superstars, but they, like you guys, became an even deeper team this year. What else would you maybe not notice looking at them with how good they've been?
Yeah, I think the depth they've added, I think obviously they're, got the two-headed monster, but I think just the depth they brought in, Frederick, Perry, all those guys. I mean, we touched on it this morning. They're first in the league in odd man rushes, but now they're also getting to the net, getting traffic to the net, so they're not just kind of run and gun, which you need the all-around game, I think. So, from my perspective, I think just going to have to expect it all. The rush, obviously, those guys, but then also, they're getting bodies to the net, pucks to the net, and, they got big guys that like to, try to make my life hard, so it should be fun.
Stay in the same row, Leah.
Hey guys, for either of you, what's it been like to see your former teammate John Klingberg kind of make his return to the league, and just the opportunities he's had over the last stretch here in Edmonton?
it's been cool, I guess, to see him back on the ice. We know as friends, what he's been through. He's put in a lot of hard work to get back to where he is, and it's good to see him back out there on the ice, and I can't wait to try and run him.
Right side in the back.
Jamie, you talk about going through the battles with the same guys many times, including this guy. Where have you seen Jake grow, maybe even this year over previous years?
I think it started probably, right from our first playoff run together. He's just a player, a goalie that, steps up in big moments and, pretty composed. Nothing seems to faze him really, and I try to get under his skin, even in practice, and he's calm as a cucumber. So he takes his level to another game, and you've seen it last couple of years, and even this year, it's just going to another level.
Stars players Miro Heiskanen and Mikko Rantanen to take your questions. Once again, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone. Who'd like to start us off? Well, second row left side, Mike.
Hey, Miro. We asked you the other day, what's it been like in the process, and do you feel last game was a little bit more normal to how you have minutes and how your responsibilities in a game?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's been, every game has been a little better and felt better. So yeah, it's a long break, 3.5 months. So it takes a little time to get used to it again. But yeah, last game felt really good, and hopefully can keep building on that.
Right side, second row.
Mikko, you obviously have a lot of playoff experience in your career. What has it been like in this playoff run with this group, who also has a lot of playoff experience? What do you notice about a group like this, that where you come into it and you see that much experience?
Yeah, well, I definitely noticed it through the things we've gone through in the playoffs, that there's an experience, there's that even keel mindset, like I've talked about after a win. Felt like we never get too high on the celebration of a win, and if we lose, we reset really quickly. So I think that's the most important thing, and that's what, when you have a lot of experience, that kind of comes automatically in the playoffs, because it doesn't really matter what the score of the game is. It's just a one win or loss. So yeah, it's been great to be with these guys.
We'll stay on the right side, third row.
Hi, Mikko. You've talked a lot about the Finns in your locker room, but really throughout the conference final, there's Finns everywhere. There's expected to be 12 total in the two conference final. What does it mean to you to kind of be a part of that, and do you really consider this almost like a golden age of Finnish hockey right now?
Yeah, well, it's obviously I'm really happy to be part of it. It's to play these games. It's an honor, and that's what you dream of as a child, and I guess we have a pretty good generation of players. I think Finland has had in previous years too. So I don't know if we're the golden age, because we gotta win something or get a medal in the Olympics or something to be compared to those Teemus and Koivu brothers and those guys. So, but yeah, I'm happy to see that a lot of Finns are playing these games.
Stay in that same row.
Hey, Miro, I know you've been played a ton together on the ice with Cody Ceci, but what does a guy like that, with his experience, his presence, maybe add to you guys' group at the blue line?
Yeah, he's been great. It's, very solid D-man, plays a lot of PK minutes and he's great on defensive zone. It's been great to have him, and yeah, he's got a lot of experience too in the playoffs, so it's great.
Go back to Corey in that same row.
You did mention that you need to win something, but you guys did win. You were part of that 2016 World Juniors team that you guys won. You were the captain of it. Do you have any memories of that? Going back to and Kapanen's goal as well. Do you have any memories of that team? And did you think that this would be kind of where you'd be at 8 years later?
Yeah, well, a lot of good memories, obviously, from that tournament, and No, I didn't know where to be in 8 years. I kind of was going day by day, but I'm happy to play in the NHL and happy to be a Dallas Star now and play in the playoffs, conference finals. So, but yeah, a lot of good memories, like you mentioned. Kapanen scored the game winner, so yeah, it's good times.
Left side, first row.
Miro, obviously you already had a couple of Finn teammates, but what was it like when you did come back and you had two more? Now you've got, 4 of them around you, and just talk about the mess together of all you guys and what it's like on and off the ice.
Yeah, it's great, of course. Got two great players, and they're both big part of our team, and it's great to have them here. It's I have played them with them both before, so kind of knew what to expect, and played against them a lot, and wasn't fun. So it's great to have them here, and it's fun off the ice to can speak Finnish and doing stuff together. So yeah, it's been great to have them here.
Back to the right side, third row.
On that note, for either of you, is there one of you guys or the families that cooks a Finnish dish that you guys have enjoyed, or is there any joints, restaurants in town that serve any sort of Finnish delicacies?
Not very, not Finnish, but there's a lot of good food in Dallas, and we've been going to restaurants or to someone's place and cook dinner there. So yeah, it's been good, but not any Finnish meals.
Fish and potatoes usually, or what's kind of the go-to if you got a Finnish meal?
I don't know, but one thing I gotta mention, Esa Lindell can't cook a steak. That's for sure.
Back to Mike, left side, second row.
Hey, Miro. What is the challenge of facing the Edmonton Oilers and all the skill they have?
Yeah, of course, it's great challenge for us. Everybody knows what happened last year at this time, so it's we wanted this go other way around this year, and hopefully we can do that. But yeah, it's really good team and gonna be a tight series for sure.
Left side, front row.
Hey, Mikko, the rivalry with Edmonton is obviously a big one from last year. How has that been communicated to you coming into this team?
Well, yeah, I haven't even really asked about it, because I know that when you play against a team in the playoff series, and especially the later you go, second, third round, they're always the battle level, and kind of, and then if you go back-to-back years, there's obviously a short memory from what happened last year, and so I'm expecting a physical series. Both teams are physical, and I don't know, bad blood, but obviously there's some compete from last year. Obviously Edmonton won last year, but now we try to change the script.
Stars General Manager Jim Nill, Head Coach Pete DeBoer to take your questions. Once again, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone. We'll start right side, front row with Nick.
I have one for each of you. For Jim, after back-to-back conference finals, what did you think your team needed? And then how do you think your changes have played out? And then Pete, Gretzky was in your room after last game. Got some anecdotes about that. I wondered if you had an interaction with him or he had any words for you.
Yeah, well, first of all, you never take the situation we're in for granted. This is not an easy place to get to, and to do it over 3 years is not easy to do. There's some teams that we just beat could be sitting in these chairs right now, so we respect that a lot. And I think the biggest thing is our players respect that because of the job that Pete and his staff have done. They've made them understand that, and it's. When you go through this, you got to go through these pains to win. It's too hard of a championship to win. The NHL playoffs are too hard, and you have to go through these pains. There's going to be down times, and you learn from those. And I think we got a hardened group, we got a very resilient group, and they want more of this, and they've learned from it each time they've gone. And let's see if this is one of the last steps.
Yeah, well, first, what a great honor to have the greatest player, of all time come down after the game and say hello. I got a chance to spend some time with him at the Four Nations, which was extra special. I mean, that's my era. That's the guy. We all grew up watching, and he's a special guy when you get him
one-on-one or in a coach's room or behind the scenes. He really, you can see his passion for the game. He could sit and talk hockey and tell stories all night. And, did he say anything? What if I told you he was hoping that Dallas would win? Do you think that'd be headlines in Edmonton? He didn't. He didn't. I would never say. He would never say that, and I would never put him in that spot. But he was very respectful, of our group and the job we had done to that point. I think we all understand his allegiance to Edmonton and appreciate that. So he never went beyond that. But it was great to see him.
Left side, front row.
Hey, Jim. Pete talks a lot about the guys in the room at the start of round one not getting enough respect. You're sitting in your office after the regular season knowing you don't have Miro, you don't have Robo. What was your confidence level going into that, and what have you learned about your group over the first 2 rounds here?
Well, all season, this season, it was a battle all year. We lost last year. Great run, you lose last year, and you're coming back to do it again. And it's not easy. You got to, nobody cares what you did the previous year, so you start all over again. We have the trip to Finland. It's a grind. The season was a grind, the schedule. December, you lose Sagan. And he's gone for most of the rest of the season. Will he get him back before or in the playoffs sometime? You're hoping, but you don't know how that process is going to go. And then on January 28th or whatever it was, we lose probably our best player, one of the best players in the league, Miro Heiskanen. And you're going through that battle. You're going through the Four Nations. Some players playing in the Four Nations. And it was just it was a battle, but I get back to our guys rose to the occasion all the time. And so we were pretty confident in where we were at. We went through really our roughest stretch at the end of the year, and we all know the talk about that. You lose 6, 7, 8 games in a row. We can't seem to get our footing, but there's just an inner confidence with our group. With the structure we play in, the way our coaches prepare for it, there was never a panic in the room, and that's what I like about our group. Now, were we concerned? Yes. We don't want to lose 7, 8 games in a row. Yes, there was concerns, but our guys stuck with it. They've stuck. They continue to stick with it. We bend and we don't break.
Right side, front row, Tracy.
Jim, this is for you. With Jake Oettinger, just how have you watched him grow and develop, and especially with the past 2 conference finals? And also, is he one of the most, if not the most laid-back goaltender you've ever dealt with in your time in the league?
Well, he's definitely one of the most laid back. He's a very mature young man. He's got a great head on his shoulders, just a great outlook in life. His family's done a great job bringing up a great young man, but he's been a great story, great development story for us. We draft him, under 18 program. He's going to college, going to play at college. He did that, and then COVID hit. We've got a lot of guys on our team that are great COVID stories, and and he's one of them. He comes to the bubble as a third goalie. Ben Bishop gets hurt right away. We throw Jake into the Wolves pretty well. I think he played the one game in Colorado and just got blitzed in that. But he just always keeps his head on his shoulder. We get through the COVID. He's got to go back. He's been with the NHL team for a couple years because of COVID, because of circumstances, but he hasn't played much. And now we got to send him down. And that was a tough discussion to say, Jake, you got to go down and play. And he wasn't happy, but he dealt with it the right way, very mature, went down there, did what he's supposed to do. We got injuries up top. He came in and never looked back. And it just shows the mature level of him. For a goalie at his age to be doing what he's doing right now, it's a great story, and it just shows you how much more there is there for him. That's what excites us. I think he's just touching his potential. At his age, usually goalies, they're 28, 29, 30 when they start to hit their most potential, and he's there right now. And but a great young man, one of the leaders of our team, which is rare too for a goalie. I think he's one of those guys you could probably put a letter on if you wanted to. He's that mature, and we're just very fortunate to have him.
Right side, fourth row.
Hey, Coach. Running a story on Tyler Seguin. I'm sure you saw him play in Boston early in his career, but what were your first impressions of him as a Dallas Star, and what has he meant to this team in your time here?
Great question. My perception coming into this job of what Tyler Seguin was and what the reality was were totally different. You know, my perception was, you know, that he was a guy that had put up points, you know, terms like leadership, maturity, you know, kind of didn't go, you know, when you talked about Tyler Seguin until I got here, and those would be the first words out of my mouth, you know, in my dealings with him over the last 3 years. You know, I think he's been a fantastic leader for our group, showing great maturity. He's at a totally different stage in his life. He's married. He's got kids. He's won, but he hasn't won in a long time, and that's his priority. And he's willing to do anything, take any role in order to help try and get us there. And so, you know, that's the reality of my dealings with him, and really pleasantly surprised.
Left side, second row, Mike.
Hey, Jim. As a scout, how do you assess Miro, and what have you seen in these 3 games so far? It seems like he impacts everything in the game.
It's nice to have him back. No, you know what? Got to give it a lot of credit. First, I'll give credit to the player. Not an easy rehab. You know, when you have the surgery he had, and then the rehab process, and he's sitting there. He's one of the leaders of our team, and he's watching games every night. He wants to get back there, but there's a process to it, and he went through the process. I give my credit to our training staff. They did a great job. They stuck with him. They're patient with him. You know, Pete and I, every day we're coming in saying, when's he going to play? We want him out there now. We're pushing. And they're saying, nope, it's not the right time. His doctor that did the surgery did a great job. He kept us at bay also. And but it just shows you how good of a player he is. You know, to bring him in, you know, the coach staff did a great job, kept his minutes down as much as you can. You know, because what happens when you get into a game and the game starts, you're a player now. You miss time, that doesn't matter. That's all. I know how coaches think. I'd be the same way. Once you're in the game, you're a player. And to keep his ice minutes down, Pete, Lane Nazardine, they did a good job. It'd be hard, you know, you want to let that horse go. And they managed him well. And I thought the last game, that was Miro Heiskanen. He was, you know, we're into the third round of the playoffs. Teams are starting to they're worn out. They're getting tired. He looked like he was the fresh body out there. You know, he's just starting to play. He was breaking some ankles out there. And he's such a wonderful player to watch, just the way he glides around and how he thinks and moves the puck.
Left side, fourth row.
Hi, Jim. Can you talk about John Klingberg a little bit? Obviously was here for a long time, and he's had a long journey back to the ice. Can you talk about him getting healthy again and running into him this deep in the playoffs?
Yeah, no, I'm so happy for John. John and I got a great relationship. He was a big part of our team for many years here. Saw him develop as a young player. You know, situations happened, but we've always maintained a great relationship, and that I respect him so much. And to see what he's gone through, not an easy surgery, what he went through, and to be able to come back, and now he's making an impact for them. And so I'm excited for him. And like I said, he's a great player, and he's a player that we're going to have to watch closely.
Right side, second row.
This question's for both of you. I guess brief response is fine, but the nature of the relationship between both of your roles, there has to be a lot of trust going in both directions. In a year like this, with all the adversity that you all faced, what kept that trust strong through that adversity this year?
Well, I think that there's a mutual respect between us. And, you know, one thing when I interviewed Pete, you know, one thing I talked about is I'm bringing him to be the coach. He's got to make the final decisions. It's his call. And if I'm going to be sitting there, it's not that we don't have healthy discussions and probably have some unhealthy discussions. That's life. But in the end, when the game's going to start, Pete needs to know that I got his back, that I agree with his decision. And that's how we've operated. And you know, his resume speaks for itself. How can I not respect that? What a great resume, what he's done, and how he's handled it, and a great family man. And I got so much respect for that.
Left side.
Oh, yeah, on my end, just to finish that is, you know, I think when Jim and I have conversations, there's no agenda, you know, other than winning. You know, listen, he has a wider view of the organization than I do. You know, development, who's coming up, draft picks, things like that. Mine is much more narrow, but you know, our agendas are the same. It's winning a Stanley Cup, and that's critical.
Left side, first row.
Jim, I know when you were adding players during the midseason, you weren't looking at Finns. You were just looking for good players, but you added a couple more Finns to this team. Talk about the impact the 5 Finns have had for you guys, but also just there's 12 of the guys in the conference finals this year, and what the players from there mean.
Well, they've done a great job of developing players over in Finland. Yeah, you got to tip our hat to the Finnish Federation. Done a great job, and I think the most important thing, we know they're good players, but they're just really good human beings, and it's how they conduct themselves on and off the ice. They all have different personalities. Mikael Granlund's kind of the grandfather of the group. It's neat to see him. He's a quiet man, but he comes in there, and you can just see the respect they have for him. These younger guys saw him. He's been the leader of Finnish hockey for a long time, and you got Miro Heiskanen, the up-and-coming star, but he's quiet. Esa Lindell, quiet guy, but he's not quiet. He's got his own way of saying things. You got Rupe Hintz, a little more flamboyant in how they conduct themselves. And it just kind of goes on, and they're just, they're great people, and they're very committed to winning. They play the game the right way. When you talk about Finnish players, they play the game the right way. They've been well coached. They understand both ends of the ice, and like I said, I got so much respect for them. And we talked about that trip we had over to Finland. What a great acknowledgement for them to be able to go over there and show the Finnish people, here we are, but we respect our country. It was just such a great trip for them. I know a little bit to get by and stuff. All that really matters to me is salmon soup.
On my end with those guys, this is the golden age of Finnish hockey. If you look at the last decade, those guys have won a lot of tournaments, under 18, World Juniors, World Championships. They know how to win. They have those winning habits, and that's what makes them easy to coach, easy to play.
We'll take a few more. Left side, second row.
Jim, you had talked about the end of the season and going into the playoffs, and there was some concern there. Did it remind you at all, or has this reminded you at all of what you went through in Detroit back in 2002, because you had something similar and then eventually going on to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, when you're in those situations, you're looking for every straw you can grasp to a little bit of hope. So we talked about that. I shared that story with the coaches and with some of the players. That year, I think the last 15 games, I think at Detroit, we only won 2 or 3 games, and started the playoffs first round against Vancouver, lost the first 2 games at home. We were reeling. We were in trouble. And it's one of the best teams ever assembled. Luke Robitaille and Brett Hull on the fourth line, and Igor Larionov. That's how good we were. Here you're down 2-0 going to the playoffs, and it's crazy how things happen. Nick Lidstrom took a slap shot from center ice. Goalie mishandled it, went in the net, and we never looked back. And so, when you're in those situations, you're looking for some experiences, something to grasp onto. We were looking for any inspiration we could find at that time.
We'll take 2 more. Left side, first row.
Pete, I think I remember you joking that you were going to hide Wyatt Johnston in your car if Jim decided to send him back after that 9-game tryout. It feels, the way he's developed, it feels like it's been 10 years since then. What's maybe the most underrated development you've seen from Wyatt Johnston?
I think his leadership. He's turned into a leader in our group despite his age. There's very few guys in the league, especially playing on veteran teams that have a chance to win, where a young player has a leadership presence in the room and on the ice and on the bench. And he's developed that really quickly within our group. So, I'm not sure I've seen that before for a young guy that young on this type of team. And it comes naturally. He hasn't, it's not forced. He hasn't pushed his way in. It's just who he is. So, it's great for the future leadership of this organization.
Last one, right side, fifth row.
Pete, you've talked about having to have difficult conversations with this group at times and the way they responded. How has your approach or your style evolved, your coaching approach throughout this year?
Yeah. I think patient. You try and be patient. You try and have composure. You try and be the calming voice in the room. Until you lose 7 or 8 in a row, it's like Mike Tyson, right? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the nose. So definitely, I think it was a lot of work this year down the stretch, and I've shared that with Jim from our entire coaching staff. Trying to keep the train on the tracks, and when it got off the tracks, get it back on as quickly as possible without losing it. Because when you go, you see it in pro sports all the time, but those are tentative situations. When you start losing multiple games in a row, 5 can turn into 10, can turn into the end of your season really quickly. We pulled just about every trick we had in the bag out to try and keep it going.